You know, I've been making a lot of dice for my friends lately, which is all well and good, but sometimes you gotta just treat yourself, and I have a new character, an Orc Warlock, and I thought I needed a set of dice for him. And while I'm at it, I might as well make him a dice box. We're gonna be using our normal cap molds for this because it's gonna make it easier to put the swirls in there that I want, and the square dice box mold because I have a pattern I want to put on the box. The color scheme for this Orc Warlock is green, purple, and black. Purple and black being secondary to his main green color, which is going to be this leafing foil, which always looks good. Let's go ahead and start with the dice box and create the pattern on it. I'm going to use this black pigment powder from Stuart Simple, which is the darkest black I can possibly get to put on this box here. It is so dang matte, it's crazy. I'm going to use a Q-tip to essentially paint this pigment onto the mold because it will pick up a lot of the pigment here and allow me to transfer it onto the silicone. The silicone will hold on to just a very thin layer of this pigment that when we put resin in will show up as matte pigment, which is what we want. My character has a big black X on a lot of the clothes that he wears, and so it's basically his symbol, and I thought it'd be cool to put it on both the top and bottom of the dice box mold. I'm not putting any pigment inside the dice mold, so we're ready to begin with the resin, of which we're going to use Envirotex light resin. It's a 1:1 by volume mixture resin, and so it's really easy to use, and it cures in about 12 hours. It also stays crystal clear, which is very important for the dice that we're going to be making. We're going to mix it for about 5 minutes or until the mixture becomes not cloudy and completely transparent. Once we have that, we can add anything in that we like this liquid glitter that I got sent by Edna or Disco Kitty, one of my favorite products that I've had to DIY for a while, so thank you Disco Kitty, you rock. This is basically just going to turn this resin into a really shiny version of itself with little sparkles throughout. I'm going to pour off 2 small amounts of this resin to dye both purple and black. We're basically doing the swirl technique, except we're doing it with 2 separate colors to get a cool effect. We need a pipette for this in both colors, that way we can add the swirl inside the clear resin. I accidentally added way too much black alcohol ink to this amount of resin. It would cause it not to cure properly, but pro tip, if you take a tissue and remove the top layer of the alcohol ink because it doesn't really go down inside, you'll be able to save your resin. This ink is going to look green, but it will turn black when it's solidified and cured. Now we can go onto the green leafing foil, which basically functions like gold leaf, and it is so thin you could breathe on it and rip it. That means you don't actually have to shred it before you put it in your resin like other glitters, and it's so light you're not going to have to worry about dispersion issues inside of your resin. It will kind of shred itself up just as you swirl and mix in the resin. Now that we have all of our components mixed, we do have a time limit of about 20 minutes before this stuff starts curing, so let's be quick. I put down wax paper and line up my molds for easy cleanup and make sure there's enough resin in all of my pipettes for what we need to do. We're going to fill all the molds up to the brim as if we are just making a clear and green set of dice for this technique. This is why we put the wax paper down, because we want to overfill all of these molds, which is fine because now we can be a little bit messy without ruining our table. We're going to add more color into these molds and it's going to overflow even more, so it's just better to have that prep done ahead of time. Taking our colored resin filled pipettes, you can go ahead and start swirling them inside the resin. You can see here I'm expelling this colored purple resin as I'm moving it from within, creating a pattern of swirls that look almost ectoplasmic. Because I'm doing purple and black, I'm going for a very void look to fit with the Warlock, but when you're doing this, you have to be careful not to go over the same location too many times, otherwise you're just mixing the colors and you won't have distinct areas that are black and areas that are purple, or whatever colors you end up using and doing. We've done this technique before with swirls, and you can get really crisp and clearly defined swirls. I'm hoping that that will still work with 2 different colors on this dice set, but we'll just have to see. Because these are both transparent colors, I want them to blend just a little bit, but it'd be nice if we had some clear edges on some of the color. The dice box is now done and ready to go in the pressure pot, and I'm going to treat the dice the exact same way. You really do have to be careful not to over swirl or over mix these dice in their molds because there's not a lot of resin, so any movement in there is slowly mixing your colors together. So I would try it and not go back into the resin after you exit it the first time with your color. I'm probably doing twice as much purple as I am black color inside of these, as I mostly want it to be green and purple with some dark spots of black. I go over all of the molds with a lighter just to get rid of any surface bubbles that are really floating to the top and may cause some issues in the pressure pot. I always find that this helps me prevent getting any voids inside the dice molds, and so it's just something that I do every time that I can. Now all we have to do is shimmy the cap lids on, which will lock in place with the mold registration marks that I've put, and we're going to put them inside the pressure pot for 24 hours. This resin only takes 12, but if you put it for 24, you can pretty much immediately start your sanding process without any issues. And these dice are looking fan-freaking-tastic. I was so surprised at how well all of these colors work together. I was afraid that it was going to come off almost Joker-esque, but it doesn't. They work so well, and it looks like green within a void. And because we didn't swirl them all that hard, you can actually see the differences between the purple and the black swirls inside of the dice. I might have gone for a little bit more black alcohol ink if I wanted more distinct black swirls in each die, but I'm pretty happy with this, and it looks like a shadowy void that I am pleased to be a part of. The black pigment left a little bit of a mark on the mold, but I don't think that's going to show up in any of the next things that I do, and it was so worth it for this matte X on the lid and on the bottom of the dice box. It is such a cool, flavorful thing to be able to know that this truly is this character's dice box with his symbol on it and everything. Now all we have to do is finish the actual dice up, which we're going to need to do some sanding, and I'm going to get a flat surface like this glass pane here and some Zona papers to get a glass-like shine. I'm going to wet sand all of the dice, and then it's time to ink them. Now, I asked my Discord server what color should I ink these dice, and they all said white or some sort of bone color, because I agreed with them. I always ink things gold, and I should try something different, though I was very, very tempted to go back with gold. So I will do the will of the people and paint it with this screaming skull color. I wet it down and put it inside each of the numbers before it looks good, but I don't know, there's just something missing about it, and so let's go ahead and wipe that off and start over, and let's try and do a gold, or at least a really dark gold like Retributor armor. Honestly, that was a close one, because that looks way, way better, and I mean, they're for my character, so I gotta make them gold, right? And you can't tell me that that doesn't look amazing. And, you know, just giving up gold, that's not a skill that I share with other people. Oh, hi, I didn't see you there. You might have noticed that we don't have a Skillshare Transitions person for this month. We're all very sad about it. But I do think that you can help. There has to be somebody who can read "Did somebody say Skillshare?" with the passion of the legend himself. We've just run out of internal candidates, so we're going to look outside now. If you think you could be the Skillshare Transitions person, why don't you send us an email to skillsharetransitionsauditions@gmail.com. And yes, that's a real email. And I know it's everybody's dream to be the Skillshare Transitions person, so I think it would only be fair to feature everybody who sends in an audition tape for the next month. Well, somebody's got to give it a shot today, so I guess I will. Did somebody say, "Nope, nice try, you just don't compare"? And by the way, thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring this video, and if you haven't heard of Skillshare before, they're an online learning community with thousands of classes for creators to explore new skills, get lost in creativity, or deepen their passions, or even just find content that they like. It's made specifically for learning, so there's not going to be any ads, and they're always launching a ton of new classes. That way you can just stay focused and go at your own pace. There's a million types of classes on Skillshare, and I've shown off many different types before, like woodworking and painting. For example, I've been getting really into concept art, not even necessarily doing it myself, but watching others, but I've been learning a lot from their techniques and been able to use them in my own applications. Like, I really like this class called Concept Art Essentials by Kaman. I learned a lot about color from it and color theory, so I was able to translate that into trying out a color scheme for my Chaos Army for Warhammer. I did a little retexturing and recoloring, and I found that I liked brown, gold, black, and teal. Then I was able to turn that into a real product, and bada bing, bada boom, I was happy. So why don't you help me to help you, because the first 1,000 of my subscribers to click the link in the description will get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare so that you can start exploring your creativity today. But enough about that creativity stuff, let's look at the glamour shots of these dice, because gosh dang, are they some glamour shots. This is the first time where I've really had an issue picking any one favorite die from a set, because all of them look great in their own way. My favorite view though has to be this D10. Being able to see the paint from the other numbers on the inside gives me very Doctor Strange vibes, and because I'm a warlock, that's kind of very Doctor Strange if you ask me, though this D6 is really hard to beat. It just came out so dang pretty. The single tying factor to it all though has to be that dice box with his symbol on it, and being able to see from the sides those kind of voidish swirls of black and purple is so cool looking, and the dice inside looks so absolutely menacing. I don't know how to say it other than that, I just really like it, and they sound great on the table too. And yeah, that's right, whenever I make dice for me, you better believe they're gonna crit for me. So I was very excited for that to be the last of the Glamour Shot rolls, for it to be a critical hit. I'm just pretty stoked about these dice and I can't wait to play them. I actually haven't picked the subclass for this Warlock yet. I'm kind of debating between Hexblade and Of the Fiend, so why don't y'all let me know what you think he should be. He's a really grumpy, mean old Orc Warlock and I'm just excited to play him. So let me know in the comments what type of Warlock you think he should be. I also know I say this every time, but this has to be one of my favorite sets that I've made, maybe even the top. And I know I just made ramen noodle dice, how can I say that, but I will never roll those dice unless under duress. Thank you so much for watching. Consider subscribing if you might want to see some more content like this in the future. Like the video if you like it, dislike it if you disliked it. Let me know what other dice you might want to see in the comments down below, and I hope that you have a fantastic day.